Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Want to do one more video, or at least one more video, on the tragedy at the Catholic school and church in Minneapolis that occurred Wednesday, August 27th at the Annunciation Church and School, of course, in Minneapolis. Last night, watching CNN, their panel was talking about how, again, perhaps the world of online social media needs more censorship because there's more and more hate towards religious groups such as Catholicism. And of course, we know if anyone's critical of the people that tend to worship on Saturday, which I think is the day that all the Abrahamic religions are supposed to worship technically, that's the Sabbath day. Of course, it was the Catholics who moved Christian worship to Sunday, where they worship the Son of God. I don't know how the obvious ritualism goes over everyone's head, but anyway, this conversation last night, again, it is concerning, especially when you look at yours truly, where I don't preach against Catholic people. I have no problem with Catholic people themselves, other than the same problem I have with all religious people, where I wish people were not religious, rather spiritual, but not religious, and more just decent people rather than believing in dogma, which tends to put people in groups and pit them against other people unnecessarily. But anyway, all that aside, I want to talk about the latest information that's out there for this shooting. And if you missed the first two videos I did, they are up on the channel. One has this thumbnail that says, "Pray the masses hear this message." And prior to that, it's the one that says, "Shooting at Minneapolis Church, breaking news." Put out both those videos yesterday. So this video will be the third, following on exactly what we've been talking about. And I learned something very important about the state of Minnesota that I was not aware of, thanks to the people in the comments section. The Midwest for the United States, Jesuit novitiate, where they recruit Jesuits, novices. This headquarters for the Midwest of the U.S., a giant region, is located across the street from the governor's mansion for Minnesota. The Jesuit Recruiting Center is directly across the street from the governor's mansion. And if you're new here, again, I'm a broken record about how the Jesuits gave us the calendar, which says I'm doing this broadcast August 28, 2025. That happened at the end of the 16th century. The Jesuits are also responsible for standardizing English with a 26-letter alphabet at the same moment in history. And what I redundantly talk about is how the Jesuits built a system with the calendar and the language based on these old world ideas of the importance of numbers and letters and words and their spiritual connection and how it's the language of Creator. Again, this goes back to Jewish belief systems and Kabbalah, which is knowledge that was brought to the Catholic Church after the Crusades, hundreds of years before the Jesuits put this system together. And I think it is a pretty good idea that this system was probably being built over the course of hundreds of years, because when you see how intricate it is very impressive. It's obvious it wasn't built overnight. I wouldn't be surprised if this system was being built before the Jesuits even existed, and it was the Jesuits who came into existence in the 16th century who put the final touches on it, because they get the credit in his storybook, a history that most people don't know about. But a very special number to Jesuit rituals in this nation's history, a very special number, is 144. Lincoln, who blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits. What day was he shot? He was shot on the 14th of April, a lot like 144. When the Jesuits came out of suppression, it was 144 days from the sitting president's birthday, James Madison. When RFK Jr. died, a Catholic, they said he died at 1:44 a.m. When JFK died, it was 144 days from meeting with the Pope. When Donald Trump just won the latest rigged selection, it was 144 days after his birthday. Of course, he's Jesuit educated. He went to Fordham. Joe Biden, Jesuit educated. Georgetown, the first Jesuit university, simulated that Joe Biden would win the election and Trump would refuse to step down in 2020. They did that on June 12th, 144 days before the election on November 3rd in 2020. Etc., etc. This 144 number is so important. When RFK Jr. filed his paperwork to run for president, the one who lost his father at 1:44 a.m., he did it 144 days from the leader of the Jesuits' birthday, Arturo Sosa, filing his paperwork April 5th, 2023, a date that can be written 4-5 or 5-4. Both numbers connect with Dealey Plaza and Ambassador Hotel, where his two family members died in 144 rituals. But anyway, Yesterday, the day of this Catholic school shooting, was the 144th day of the governor's age, who resides in the mansion across the street from the Jesuit Order's recruiting center for not just Minnesota, but the entire Midwest region of the United States of America. And of course, the Twin Cities are very Catholic. If you've ever driven down I-94, you see that big, huge, massive Catholic cathedral right off the interstate. Not to mention Roman Catholic Church does equal 94. But St. Paul, I mean, couldn't be any more Catholic. That's where the governor's mansion is and the Jesuit headquarters. But I mean, just look at it, how perfect it is. We talked about this yesterday. Now it becomes even more clear. It becomes even more clear. And recall the day before the Catholic school shooting that got all the headlines, there were 3 shootings in Minneapolis the day prior, August 26th, and one was at the Jesuit High School. By the numbers. So, again, I don't know how people can continue to look at this stuff and just write it off as coincidence. It is not. Don't forget Martin Luther King Jr. died in a giant 144 ritual, and he died on the 95th day of the year, and he assumed the name Martin Luther after the Protestant Reformation leader who penned the 95 Theses. MLK dies on the 95th day of the year. Just think about it. Martin Luther, 95 Theses. All of these are Jesuit jokes in history, and they've all been used, all these jokes that fly over almost everyone's head, to shape this nation as we understand it. By the way, if there's any audio problems with this broadcast, please, funny, it says there's 144 people watching. You got to be kidding me. Thank you. There's 55 likes already. I appreciate that. It says that we just dropped down to 134, but there's 56 likes. If you guys can hit the like early, it does help this broadcast reach more people. But yeah, I just want to start right here with this important piece of information. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. And remember, when this nation was being founded, the Jesuits were in suppression due to having nefarious political endeavors. That's why the Pope had to suppress them. This country was created in the time of that suppression. People like Jefferson and Adams warned, if they come out of suppression, they could subvert the nation. If you're new to my work, I showed how the entire George Floyd ritual and many other things were very, very Jesuit. And they 1,000,000% were. Now, again, if you're new here, Gematria, there are 4 base ciphers of the English language. You want to know all 4 ciphers. Annunciation Catholic School in the most simple, 278, like yesterday was 27/8. I want to hit this one, though, real quick. The school on 54th Street, just to remind you, 54th Street. We started with this in the morning before they gave us the shooter's name. It built from there. But again, if you apply numerology to Jesuit order, with the alphabetic order, it's 144. With numerology applied to each letter before you add the word, it becomes 54. Like the name of the school, Annunciation, is 54. It's on 54th Street. Brandon Herrera, the 54th chief of the Minneapolis police, who was installed on November 7th, the day leaving 54 days left in the year. The ATF was on the scene, another 54. Major Jesuit fingerprints. And that's what we started with in the morning. Then hours later, the detail came out about the shooter. And again, the shooter, there's a lot here, but let me skip down to the shooter part. Robin Westman, 54, right? Run at interverse 72. The Jesuit order's logo is the sun, S-U-N. S is the 19th letter. U's the 21st, ends the 14th. You add it up, sun is 54. The sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. You can see even Robin Westman has the 153, also like Jesuit order, also like Holy Bible, going with that miraculous catch of 153 fish. So, and again, the Jesuit headquarters is at the Church of the Gesù, Building 54 in Rome. The Jesuits established their first university in the U.S., Georgetown, with a 54-year-old John Carroll, and John Carroll does equal 54 in the same cipher as all those other 54s. At the peak, there were 54 Jesuit universities in the U.S. Roddy Piper did the movie They Live, where when you get the new lenses, you see what's really going on with government and media and how Cable 54 is running the world. That becomes all the more interesting when you realize that Roddy Piper put out that tweet on September 27th in history, the anniversary of the Jesuits being recognized by the Roman Catholic Church, that the movie was a documentary, and then he died not long after on July 31st, which is the anniversary of the death of Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. And don't forget, you know, there's so many 54 things, but Oh, shoot. Just disregard. I went the wrong way with it. But anyway, Robin Westman. I didn't realize that they had a dead name, which is also Robert Westman. And do you see the 5679 in that? Society of Jesus is 56 and 79. And remember, they were created in Paris, France, which is 56. And maybe that's what I was thinking of with the Cannonball. Cannonball has that 56 connection. Just another big pairing with the Jesuits. The Jesuit order is the informal title. The formal title is Society of Jesus. They're the same thing. But as we've talked about for years, and as I've written books about, these numbers are used redundantly by them. And don't forget, this police chief, he was born in 79, and this is synced with Trump, who's 79 years old. But think about how perfect that is. Robert Westman, 5679, just like Society of Jesus, and then all the perfect overlap with Jesuit order, right? So, and then the other point we made is not only is the school on 54th Street, but the cross street is Garfield. Garfield, the president, was assassinated on July 2nd, 7-2. Think about that, 7-2-54. It's almost right there in the addresses for the school, just like the numbers coded all over this thing. And one more time, Garfield equals 44. Minneapolis on the 44th parallel. Wednesday's the only day of the week that equals 44. Shooting equals 44. The shooting happened not only on a Wednesday, but on 44 date numerology, again on the 44th parallel. The last time Minneapolis got this much attention, it was 44-year-old Derek Chauvin killing George Floyd. He was 44. Kill is 44, like officer, like department, like military. We're going to get into that because a YouTuber's now under some fire who was born on a military base. And we're going to talk about how curious this YouTuber is with the massive gun channel that somehow blew up in the age where YouTube's been deleting everybody and their mom's channels for even talking about guns. It's like, how can you become a millionaire off YouTube talking about guns in an age where they've deleted a lot of people's channel just for like having a gun in the background? Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute about how this guy's channel was established on the anniversary of the CIA's establishment. But yeah, 44 in military is just huge. Soldiers 44, infantry is 44, troopers 44, on and on and on. Again, words like gunfire is 44, mass shooters 44, firearms is 144, things I'm forgetting. Just 44 is this super redundant number in the mass shootings. Again, I wrote a book about this in 2017 with a 100-page chapter about 4 decades of mass shootings in the news and how it all comes back to 44. So yesterday, just another classic example of that. Not to mention it's synced up with the mayor, who's 44 years old. And remember, this Catholic school shooting came 35 days after the mayor's 44th birthday. JFK, the first Catholic president, number 35, killed at age 46, killed on I-35. He was also the 44th term president. And about the 46 in Catholic, like there's 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament and 145 more chapters. They're now saying this looks like a hate crime, which over the years we talked about many a hate crime, 46 rituals. So chalk up another one. CNN's been putting out 46-second story after 46-second story about this Catholic shooting. Again, those timestamps are often coded by mainstream media. This Kabbalistic code is no joke. They're putting it on a lot of things if you just pay attention. It might all seem kooky if you're new here, but you learn these codes and why they do this. Again, in Kabbalah, where this comes from, it's the belief that this is how God operates. This is how these people play God over the world. And I'll tell you, the only thing that's kooky is the people who come around here and leave comments that this is just the way the universe works. I do understand there's an organic side. I've written books about that as well. But it's kooky to come and leave a comment like that when it's very obvious how Catholic Jesuit this stuff is every single day. What, you think the universe just put the governor's mansion across the street from the Jesuit recruiting headquarters? And again, all the same redundant fingerprints are all over this that point back to the Jesuits who gave us the language and the calendar and synced up this system and have set up our education system that doesn't teach us about any of this, but instead we're mocked with it. You think that's just how the universe operates? If you do, you're a very low IQ dummy and the product of this system. Again, another redundant number at the shootings is 33 over and over. It's 33 months and days since this guy became the police chief in his big 54 ritual. And keep in mind, Robert's another one of those 33 words. That's the old name for the shooter. That's his dead name. Who left the school in 2017, going with 2 dead and 17 injured. And by the way, about the 2 dead, 17 injured, the Jesuit suppression in history happened on 21/7, the 21st of July. Notice something about the 21st of July to this shooting in Minnesota on August 27th. That would have been 37 days later, or a span of 38 days, right? Again, shooting and Wednesday are both 37, and Minnesota's 38. Like the day prior with the 3 shootings, they said 3 were killed and 8 were injured, including the one at the Jesuit High School. And keep in mind, the day of the shooting was the 239th day of the year, the 52nd prime. Again, there's 4 base ciphers of the English language: alphabetic order, reverse alphabetic order, both orders with numerology. But they're calling this an anti-Catholic shooting, which is weird because it was by a former student who went to the school and graduated in 2017. And you can see anti-Catholic's also 74, and it came 74 days after Trump's birthday. Active shooters also 74. You had the political assassinations in Minnesota on Trump's birthday this year, 74 days earlier, June 14th. 74 is a big killing number. That's why 3 of the first 5 presidents died on 7/4. 3 of the first 5, a bit like 35. Jefferson and Adams on the same day in 1826. Then 1826 days later, Monroe also on 7/4. And they were all outspoken against the Catholic Church. Again, a lot of people came to America escaping the tyranny of the Catholic Church in Europe. But yeah, you just look at all these things. They're calling it domestic terrorism in Minnesota. So I don't want to recap everything that we did yesterday, but, just a little review here. They said this ironic sign was shown where the shooting happened, a future filled with hope, which has the same numbers as shooting and Wednesday and hope and all that. And it reminds of Obama leaving office in 2017. When Trump came into office, he was back in office. And just about the Jesuits and just how important they are. Remember, on the first of the last 201 days of the year, Melissa Ann Hortman was assassinated in Minnesota, whose name equals 201, like the Jesuit order. And she was the 61st Speaker of House for Minnesota's state government. And she was killed 61 days after the anniversary of the establishment of the DFL. The word assassin equals 20 and 61. She was killed on 20 date numerology, synced up with Tim Wall's 61st birthday. Democratic farmer, labor equals 101, like assassin. And in this case, the shooting that just happened in Minnesota is perfectly synced with the new Pope, who's the first American from Chicago, not that far from Minneapolis. And the shooting came 101 days after his coronation date of May 18th. And again, just a little reminder of all the things we've been talking about. Just the continuous Jesuit fingerprints. And I'm making the point here about how Minnesota has the 38 connection, right? And now, that was months ago. Now it's on the 38th day since the Jesuit suppression anniversary of 217, and they want to tell you 2 dead, 17 injured. And by the way, if you guys have been following the story on your own news, I'm sure you've seen it with your own eyes. CNN, MSNBC, maybe Fox too. I saw CNN and MSNBC both doing it. They're now reporting 2 dead, 14 children injured, 3 adults injured. So they're giving you this 214 thing. Doesn't that remind you of what happened at Stoneman Douglas on Valentine's Day, 214? Doesn't it remind you of the Dallas area code, the 214, where JFK, the first Catholic president, died at Parkland Hospital in the 214, going with the Parkland, Florida shooting on 214? Again, they keep paying tribute to the same things in history and all these rituals. JFK, number 35, but the 44th term president. This Catholic shooting 35 days after the 44-year-old mayor's birthday, who went to Villanova, the same place that this Catholic Pope, the first American Pope, went to. Now, check this out with regards to the first American Pope. This is CNN's headline today, August 28th. Let me see if they changed it. Let's see if it's still this. So this is it right here in the moment. Student took shotgun blast to his back, okay? They've had this story up all morning. Look at this. What they emphasize, shotgun blast to his back, where the parentheses are, 246 and 75, just like Catholic Church, right? Very Catholic shooting. Now, as we talked about yesterday was the memorial for the mother of Augustine of Hippo. The current Pope, Pope Leo XIV, he's the first Augustinian Pope, a follower of Augustine of Hippo. Today, the day of this headline, it's the anniversary of Augustine of Hippo's death, who died at 75. And what are they coding in CNN's headline? They're coding 75. Now, notice up here, it just says Annunciation Catholic Church, right? Annunciation Catholic Church. That equals 267. If you guys weren't here before this happened, if you're new to the channel, I was saying well in advance before he was even named, I was saying the next pope is going to have something to do with the city of Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is the 267 area code. Where did he go to school? He went to Villanova, just outside Philly. And don't forget, he's from Chicago, which is the 312. Pope Francis died on the 312th day of Trump's age. Not to mention Trump equals 88. The Pope died at 88. He died on Rome's birthday. Holy Roman Empire equals 88. But Trump also got 312 electoral college votes, supposedly, in the rigged selection that's always synced up with the church who gave us the calendar and the language and really controls the show. Now, it doesn't matter who counts. It doesn't matter who votes. It only matters who counts the votes. Anyway, the name of this church that this is all synced up with the Pope happens to equal 267. The children were shot through the windows into this church. And remember, it was 347 days after the Pope's birthday, and the word sacrifice equals 347 in Hebrew, where the original system comes from. But isn't that something? I missed that yesterday. That simple little thing right there. We knew it was synced with the Pope, but wow, the church equals 267. And remember what they were doing yesterday. Part of the reason I missed that is because the way that CNN was writing it yesterday was like this. They were writing it like this. Or it was in Minneapolis. Or Snap. No, I got to go back and see the way they wrote it. We just copied it straight from the article yesterday. The way they wrote it yesterday, yeah, now it's going to bother me how they wrote it. However they wrote it yesterday equaled 491, like how the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th this year, was the 491st birthday. That's going to drive me nuts because I'm OCD. I did cover that yesterday. I'll go back and pull that up. But look at this. I also saw this reporting. Shooting at Catholic school morning mass, 8:15 a.m. They reported it like this and put it up on the screen last night at CNN. They said it happened at 8:15 a.m. Let me see if any of the articles have this written right in there. Snap. Sometimes they put things on the screen on CNN that don't actually get written in the article. CNN reported this happened at 8:15 a.m. That is the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th. Okay. It doesn't look like they're putting in articles. CNN had that on the screen last night, and I just thought, oh my God. I mean, this is ridiculous. Okay. Cash Patel. Look at Cash Patel Day. Little puppet Cash Patel. Everything about Cash Patel, like all these stooges, is by the numbers. Look at the word he uses in his speech today. He refers to the shooting as barbaric. Fox News emphasizes barbaric. What does that word equal 54? Do I need to go over all the 54s in the shooting again? I hope not. If I do, please just rewind the video when you're done. Get it in your head because it is the most encoded number in this shooting, which is the most important number to the Jesuit history in this nation. So, yeah, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And from the day that he became, you know what's interesting? He did become the FBI head on the 52nd day of the year, February 21st. Again, Minnesota's 52. Anti-Catholic is 52. The shooting happened on the 239th day of the year, the 52nd prime. 52 is a special number. Government's 52. Authorities 52. President's 52. White House is 52. We're on a 52-week calendar named after the Pope, 52. 52 cards in the deck. They're playing games with us. But notice, it's also 187 days after he became the FBI head. That's a number that has to do with murder, homicide code. It's also encoded into Society of Jesus, Washington, D.C. It's encoded into a lot of things, really. George Washington is 187. George Washington died on December 14th. Fateful day in history. December 14th is 187. If you spell out 1214, it's 187, like how you could say the date. Holy Roman Empire is 187. Brotherhood of Death, that's the alias for Skull and Bones, which is modeled after the Illuminati, which was founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt in Bavaria, which equals 54. And have you ever thought about this? George W. Bush, his birthday is July 6th, which is the 187th day of the year, member of Skull and Bones. He won the 54th election. And the funny thing about July 6th, his birthday being the 187th day of the year, what age did George Washington die at? He died at 67, right? Like July 6th, and the majority of the world's written 6/7. You don't think he was born for the job? You got to be kidding me. These chosen puppets. Yeah, again, the FBI and ATF was on the scene. And just for the record, Federal Bureau of Investigation has that 133, also like Minnesota, also like government, also like president, also like White House. So, anyway. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, just the hate crime thing here. Hate crime, Catholic, JFK dead at 46. Anniversary of the Jesuit suppression to the tragedy, 38 days. Minnesota death, murder, killing, RIP, all 38. Again, just think about that date, 21/7. All the headlines are 2 dead, 17 injured. Jesuit fingerprints all over the whole thing. And this YouTuber, Brandon Herrera, I had never heard of him before yesterday. I'm sure his channel's growing, getting the shout out in the mainstream media. They're saying the shooter said that he met Brandon Herrera at a gun festival and he gave him a big shout out in his manifesto, right? And so I thought, I didn't know there was a popular gun YouTuber on YouTube. Just reading the article, I thought it was strange. I thought, I wonder when he started his channel, because there's been a major crackdown on all things guns on YouTube for the better part of the last decade. And again, you guys, a lot of people who don't even really cover guns. I mean, people have lost their channel because they're driving in their truck doing a video and they got their shotgun on the rack in the back window. People just, showing their guns on stream. There's been a lot of people who've gotten a lot of trouble just for having a gun in the background, talking about a gun. There's a lot of rules around it, so it's hard for me to imagine how somebody could become massively popular on YouTube with guns and having a whole channel dedicated to guns and shooting guns in this age. But lo and behold, here's Brandon Herrera, who has over 4 million subs, having found his channel in 2017. You guys, that was the year that a lot of us got deleted for the very first time, including yours truly. And I got deleted on Elon Musk's birthday, June 28, 2017. Devastating for me at the time. I had all my eggs in one basket. It totally screwed me. And I mean, I've been deleted 20 some more times since. It's been devastating the whole time. And now we're totally shadow banned. But yeah, it just blows my mind that you could grow your channel to 4 million subs with that topic on this platform. And again, it turns out this guy's establishment date for his channel is the same day that the CIA was established, which we'll get to. But notice, this is the Fox News article about him, right? Can you see this little timestamp they have to have up here in this article about this YouTuber with the gun channel who got named in the manifesto? Can you see that it says 1:10 local time there, Central Time for Minneapolis? Now, this YouTuber's name is Brandon Joseph Herrera. If you look up his full name, Brandon Joseph Herrera, 1:10. In the story, being investigated for domestic terrorism is the shooter. 1:10, Minnesota, 1:10. Again, it's par for the course. Earlier, we saw this Fox News stamp earlier was stopped at 10:38 a.m., 38 minutes after the hour, like Minnesota. A story about the feds being on the ground, federal 138, like Donald Trump, 138. But okay. Again, it says, the man named in a disturbing video allegedly made by the prime suspect in Wednesday's mass shooting at a Catholic church and school is speaking out and condemning the shooter's hateful and senseless act. Brandon Herrera, Second Amendment activist, YouTuber, and Texas Republican congressional candidate, responded to being named in the shooter's video in a statement emailed by his campaign to Fox News Digital. Herrera said, "I'm horrified by this clearly hate-motivated attack on innocent children and disgusted that my name came out of this demon's mouth." Herrera went on to say, "I meet thousands of people every year at SHOT." Again, in the manifesto, he said he met him at SHOT in Las Vegas. You know what? There's probably something to that on a Wednesday, too, because remember, Wednesday is named after Mercury, which equals 86, and Las Vegas also equals 86. Anyway, that point aside, I meet thousands of people every year at SHOT show in Las Vegas, but I don't remember this individual at all, nor does anyone I was there with. Okay, so again, this is good publicity for him. And you can see Brandon Herrera's channel was established on September 18th, the CIA's birthday, right? The CIA's birthday. And Brandon happens to have that 68 gematria like CIA. Herrera, his surname, happens to have that 44, which is encoded all over the shooting, which is again synced with the 44-year-old mayor on the 44th parallel in Minneapolis. But, okay, I'd never heard of this guy, so I had to check out a video, right, to see what he does. So he posted a recent video about Kurt Cobain's death. And if you guys don't know, Kurt Cobain died 44 days after his birthday, or at least his body found April 5th was 44 days from his birthday. And of course, I've talked about this for a million times. Cobain's 44 like Seattle. And again, this is the kind of stuff that makes you sad. It's like, how does this guy who's been around for a fraction of the time I've been around, like, I mean, come on, man. My information's a million times better. Cobain died in 94 days after Bill and Melinda got married. 206 days before Bill Gates' birthday when Seattle's the 206, and that number has to do with sacrifice in the Jewish cipher. But you see how Seattle, Washington's also 68? What I was glad about when I watched the Brandon Herrera video is he said we're going to make jokes in this video about Cobain's self-deletion. And I thought, why would he even do that? That seems kind of like a wicked thing to do. And he says, we're not the only one doing it. Let me play a clip of what Metallica said right after his death. And I had never seen this before, you guys. But if you go to Brandon Herrera's channel and you watch his recent video about testing the Cobain, self-deletion theory, he's going to play this clip right at the beginning from June 12th, 94 of Metallica. And this is the joke they tell. They go, this is what the clip is. He said, they're in the middle of a song and they go, hey guys, what was Kurt Cobain's eye color? And then the next, I forget who asked the joke, but then another member of that because they go, blue, because one eye blew out to the left and the other to the right. And then it's like, God. But look at this. As soon as I heard it, I saw it all. I just saw it all in real time. I said, wait a minute. June 12th is 68 days after he died, not to mention caskets go 6 feet deep or 8 feet long, right? And blue equals 68. The color blue, 68. Again, just right here, if you need it, April 5th, 1994 to June 12th, the day of the joke, which Brandon Herrera plays. Don't count the span. It's 68 days later, right? Seattle, Washington, blue. Number connected to death. And remember, 68 was like the deadliest year of all years. A lot of things went down in 68. Cooties 19, fentanyl, 9/11, World Trade Center construction, all the things that once it got to the 21st century connected to the biggest killers. And don't forget how important Seattle was to 911. The buildings were built and designed by people from Seattle and Boeing and yeah. But anyway, that blew my mind. I was like, God, I never heard about that before. But isn't it interesting? The guy that has 4 million subs talking about guns, a very tough topic. Brandon. It's just so perfect, isn't it? It's just so perfect. And by the way, just about this whole Catholic thing and the AK, his YouTube channel is called the AK Guy, Brandon Herrera. It's called the AK Guy if you're trying to look up his channel. The AK Guy 35, like Catholic, like Holy See, like Jesuitism, like YouTube. So. Oh, yeah, and Brandon Herrera. Look at his birthday, you guys. It just happens to be the same day as the only Catholic president in recent history. There's only been 2. JFK dead at 46 and Joe Biden, number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. And where was Brandon Herrera born? On a military base? You don't think this could have been a government asset from the very beginning? Remember the ritual they just had synced up with Fort Bragg? Remember what they just did there, connected to Fort Bragg in recent times? That's where he was born. He was born at Fort Bragg. Let me see. You guys remember this, how the Cape Fear flooding just recently happened with all the crazy flooding in July, like Genesis 7's all about the floods. But check this out. Just to remind you how this all went down. The flooding occurred on 10/7, like military's 107. Happened near Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg, 107 years old at the time of this flooding. 107. And the flooding occurred on the 191st day of the year. If you guys are new here, the first act of weather warfare was admitted to on the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, 1952. This year, we got the first hurricane to form in the Atlantic on August 15th, and then it caused a lot of flooding in the Carolinas. On 73 date numerology, Carolina equals 73. The hurricane formed on the 73rd 73rd anniversary of the first act of weather warfare, again on the Jesuit Order's birthday. But again, the flooding occurred on the 191st day of the year on the Cape Fear River that's 191 miles long. Society of Jesus, 191. So I'm just mentioning how Fort Bragg was very instrumental in this ritual. And now here's a guy born at Fort Bragg and shortly later, and he's coming up, and they're connecting him to this story. And just for another pattern, it was 33 weeks after the state's birthday. And we saw this with a lot of the floods. It was a 33 thing from the state's birthday because the biblical flood story in Genesis 7 is in Genesis, which equals 33. But yeah, weather warfare, hard for people to wrap their mind around. From the Cape Fear movie anniversary to the flooding of the Cape Fear River was 239 days, the 52nd prime. Flood Earth and Enlil, the Babylonian god of flooding, 52. The first act of weather warfare was the Lynmouth flood in 1952. Fayetteville got smashed this year, 52. Next to Fort Bragg. Little reminder there. Again, if you think mass shootings by the numbers are mind-blowing, wait until you get into weather warfare. These people are super advanced. And the common man here in the U.S. just isn't. Now, the other thing is, remember the last time there was a major shooting ritual in the news? It was a big 44-37 ritual in Georgia on a Wednesday. Wednesday again, 37-44, shooting 37-44. Let me just pull that up right here. Emory, make sure I got that right. I do believe that was a Wednesday. Actually, maybe, hold on. Was it not a Wednesday? I might be tripping about that. But Emory's at 201 Dowman Street. And, you know, the Jesuit Order 201. And the CDC was founded by Mr. Big Mountain, Mr. 201. But the point is you had a shooting at a school and the CDC on the same day, right? And the other big story yesterday, besides the shooting, was the latest debacle with the administration and the CDC. And it was the firing of the new CDC head, who just became the CDC head on an important Jesuit day, July 31st. She's fired 27 days later on August 27th, the day of the shooting. Now, she was fired over jab policy, right? And look at this. From her November 6th birthday to her firing was exactly 42 weeks. And VACCINE is 42. And she was the 21st director of the CDC, and Jesuit is 21 and 42. And this is what she was fired over, right? The dispute in the jab policy. And RFK Jr., who's Jesuit educated, he went to Georgetown Prep. Trump went to Fordham. They're both Jesuit educated men, just like most people in the federal government. By the way, just about that 144 being everywhere, making America healthy again, 144. It's also 117, like Central Intelligence Agency, which is also like RFK Jr.'s birthday, January 17th. Remember, he got in the race before linking up with Trump, who won the election 144 days after his birthday, but RFK Jr. got in the race April 5th, 144 days after the Superior General's birthday. Superior General's last birthday at the time was November 12, 2022. RFK Jr. filed his paperwork to run April 5th, 2023, 144 days later. We talked about this the day of. And the day of, I told you the day of, I said this is another signal there's going to be some kind of assassination story on the campaign trail because they've already connected Trump to King James with the first election. And now November 5th, the day of the election, will be the anniversary of King James surviving the Jesuit assassination plot. For people who don't know about that, the Jesuits tried to kill King James on November 5th in history. And all this stuff's a joke. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, here, let me connect it again. The whole thing about the Jesuits, shots, and shots. You see how we got two kinds of shots here? We got the ones that go in your arm, sometimes in your ass, sometimes in other parts of your body, and then you got the ones that come out of, you know, the hot lead, right? So remember, Sandy H., the poor first graders, that was compared to the Dune Blaine massacre that happened 201 months earlier. SH was December 14th. The first person to get the Cooties 19 poke was Sandy Lindsay on December 14th. Shots and shots. And remember, the shooter at SH, the school established in 56, where the shooting happened in 2012, 56 years later, The shooter was Adam Peter Lanza, 56. The shot was all about 56. The virus was 56. It was 56 years after Trump's Jesuit education began. They started calling it, the COVID, VACCINE, which is 56. There were a million 56s if you weren't here. I wrote a book about it. You can read about it. YouTube doesn't like you to talk about it. But both all about the 56. And then, remember, we just talked about this yesterday with poor Patrick Dragon, right? So let's just make sure we got all this stuff. So poor Patrick Dragon, who was a hero at SH, he ended up dying from Cooties 19, and they had to give you a nice picture of him next to the 56 on the license plate. And now yesterday's shooter, right? Yesterday's shooter, his dead name was Robert Westman. I mean, there it is again. Looks just like Adam Peter Lanza. You know what I mean? It's just like it. Okay, so we had the Sandy Lindsay parallel. And then recently, if you go back to the beginning of this year, May 20th, that's Cannonball Day. That's the day in history the founder of the Jesuits got shot. Not with an actual cannonball, but back then a cannonball was what came out of a musket. So Ignatius Loyola was shot on May 20th in history. And poor Billy Cannon. Remember what they did to Billy Cannon on Cannonball Day? R.I.P. Judge Eileen Cannon wanted Trump in court on Cannonball Day. At the Cannon building, the fire alarm got pulled the other year. Again, all these jokes are going over everybody's head. But this year on Cannonball Day, remember what the World Health Organization did? The day to remember Ignatius getting shot. What did the World Health Organization and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all them, what did they all agree on? The new pandemic declaration. So the next time there's a pandemic, everybody can get the shots really fast, right? So we had that happen. So like, that's an interesting day to come up with the Shot Alliance. In light of yours truly explaining how it's all Jesuits all along the whole time doing these sick jokes. And, God, what am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. There's another one. But you had the recent CDC school shooting thing. And now you had yesterday's news, which, isn't as strong as the other ones. But I'm just saying, top stories again, CDC shooting back to school. Usually back to school, you got to get your shots, right? They got a chart. Hey, are you up? If you're not up on your chart, man, you're getting calls home. We got to get them up on the chart if they want to be in the classroom. Kids are scared of that. When you're a kid, do you remember? Most kids don't want to get the shots when they're kids. Oh my God, it hurts. Who wants needles in their body? And now these poor kids growing up, it just, that's what makes me mad is all these little kids. Understand, I used to be a school teacher. I used to teach 5th grade. Sorry, I just got a text back real quick. Hey, just all these little kids, man, they don't know about any of this clearly, just like almost nobody does. All they know is all this fear, and the parents probably have the fear in them. Can you imagine being a kid in school at this day and age and thinking that at any minute some psychopath might come busting through your door? Not to mention, again, the last time I taught in public school was before SH happened. I was working at a private school in Bellevue, Washington. If anybody wants to research me, I was working at Bellevue Children's Academy when SH happened. And I remember that day because a lot of stay-home parents came in and picked up their child early. They were so afraid of what happened in Connecticut, even though we're all the way out here in Washington State, about as far away as can be. But when I was in public school, the drills were getting ridiculous. The common drill that happened a few times throughout the year was you were supposed to simulate a psychopath being in the school. You're supposed to turn out the lights. You're supposed to go to the furthest corner from the door. Everybody crowds in, and one of the principals or upper faculty would walk down the hallways and act like a crazy person and bang on doors and yell. And I was a teacher back then, and I just think, this is ridiculous, man. This is ridiculous. I mean, to be simulating this. And then I think, like, look at this protocol. You think we're safe here because we all cuddled in the corner the furthest away from the door as possible? I mean, come on. Psychopath comes in here like or what's the phrase? Fish in a barrel? This is dumb. How about let's focus on what matters? And then again, you look at the truth of what's going on. This stuff is all high ritual, and it's coming from the people who've taken over our government because they want to scare people out of their rights and liberties. Again, you imagine a future where you have no protection device, only the authorities have protection devices. You're being told that you have to submit to that other kind of shot, or there's going to be major consequences like being put in a cage. I could see it going there at the rate everything's declining and changing. You got no way to protect. You're either getting that shot, and again, you just like I said, there's so many people that aren't here anymore because they got that thing. Don't forget who spent 100 straight days nearly out on the streets of America educating people before it even came out why you didn't want to get it, because of everything that was told to us from the people in charge before it came out. All the signs that were out there, from the simulations to what Bill Gates said, all these things. I warn people, you better not fall for it. Could be some major consequences, and some people have experienced some major consequences. Again, my poor twin sisters that I used to live next to in Seattle as neighbors. One is now dead, and the other one is barely alive. And again, the sad thing is about a year before the one sister died, the other sister had a massive heart attack, nearly died, can no longer work. Her sister was taking care of her, and now she died. And now the one with all the health problems is barely hanging in there. And then the ironic part was their father is like from that pre-World War II generation. I believe, I know that the sister died at his birthday party this year, and I want to say it was his 97th birthday. And no joke, the sister who's still alive told me that he is mowing the lawn for her right now at 97. He's almost 100 years old. That generation before us, you guys, just so self-sufficient. They had way less slave school. They learned how to do things. They had community. They had parents in the household. They learned real skills. Totally different generation. Almost 100 years old and mowing his daughters. He might live past both of his daughters. How sad is that? I wonder if he got the poke. I felt terrible when they called me up because, again, I moved from Seattle area in, God, was that, losing track? That was 2018. But I remember the day they called me up and told me they got the poke and asked if I got it, and I didn't have the heart to tell them why I was so worried. I felt bad. I'm like, here I am warning everybody and their mom not to get this thing, and I didn't talk to my old former neighbors, two nice people, and I'm pretty sure that they're not old. You know, they're in their early 60s, and one's dead and the other one's barely hanging on. It's, you know, a lot of stories like that. And there's a lot of young children that aren't here anymore either. Just gone. Safe and effective. Okay, yeah, we got a new headline. Let's just run it real quick. Deranged fascination. What are they calling this time? All they do is code shit all day. Deranged fascination. Deranged fascination. Oh, what do you know? Another 110. Didn't we just talk about this? Minnesota, domestic terrorism, the YouTuber. The 88's no joke either. It's another number. It's that SS number. It made it seem like this guy had SS stuff all over the barrel. Like the mosque shooter on the Ides of March back in 2019. That's what they do. They just code the same shit all day, every day, every headline. Updated story. 116 rifle rounds were recovered from the shooting scene. Well, God, there was something in my decoding. I saw 116 earlier. It wasn't this, but just so you can see, like a word like execution is 116, 44 goes with shooting, 46 goes with Catholic and hate crime. That could be what it is. This wasn't execution. Well, at least so we're told. And again, I wouldn't be the person out there who just claims everything is fake. Sometimes I would definitely agree that it is, but you don't know that everything they do is fake. I mean, they have an agenda, and you really want to get people on board with the agenda. You cause some real chaos and take some young people's lives in the community. You might have people changing their opinion about things. All of a sudden, the person who always was for the Second Amendment, maybe they're like, you know what? Maybe maybe they're right. Maybe it's time to just give this up because enough's enough. And for everyone who submits to that ideology, criminals don't give up their guns. And who are the biggest killers in history? If you don't know the answer to that question, you got to get on your game. It's the government. The government's the biggest killer there ever was. Starting wars, all the crap they do, funneling trash into communities, et cetera, et cetera. You guys, I got to get back to it. Thank you to the super chatters. You guys are very generous. Jill Warsaw chipped in $5.50. Leper Messiah says 201 in the chat. We're up to 334. You guys, we're at 334 in the chat, 180 likes. If you guys could all hit the like, we'd be over 300. Might help the video find 5-10 new people. You never know. If you think 5-10 new people need to find this video and get this information, please hit the like. Thank you so much. Open Up says Annunciation Church in Minneapolis. That's what it was. That was the phrasing yesterday. Thank you, Open Up. Annunciation Church in Minneapolis was their phrasing yesterday, which equaled 491. The Jesuit order just turned 491 years old, August 15th. They're saying the shooting was at an 8:15 Mass. 491 is the 94th prime. The last major assault weapons ban was in 94. Roman Catholic Church also equals 94, like Minneapolis is off I-94. Interesting. Open Up also says Minneapolis MN, like you would write it on a, wait a minute, I'm not seeing that. Did I read that wrong? I'm not seeing what you said. Minneapolis MN equals 2. Maybe it's in a different cipher. Maybe it's in a different cipher. I do see it's 71, though, like Catholic. Like Zeus. Jesus. Jupiter Day. Here we are on Jupiter Day. Jupiter, Zeus, Jesus. The Greeks and Zeus. Yeah, I'm going to need some clarification on that one. But I do appreciate the generosity, as always, and thank you for the reminder on 491. Frank the Truth Tank out in Chicago. He said, great work as always, Zach. Thank you, my friend. Hey, you're always welcome, Frank the Truth Tank. Thank you for your generosity. I know you work hard for those dollars. You don't ever need to donate another one in your life, but I appreciate it. Oh, wow. Open Up, hitting home runs here. Is that right? 827 is the 144th prime number. Are you kidding me? How about that, you guys? August 27th, the 144th prime number. One more time where we began with something I learned yesterday, thanks to you guys in the comments. We did talk yesterday about how it was the 144th day of the governor's age, and that's Jesuit order. But what I did not realize is that the governor's mansion is right across the Jesuit recruiting center for the Midwest United States. So, wow. 827, like August 27th, the 144th prime. How about it? Thank you, Open Up. Great. And the Beth Rosman with another big 2. Thank you so much. We raised $29.50 on stream. Really appreciate it. RPM, yeah, exactly, guys. Here, let's read the language of the Second Amendment real quick. Let's get it up here. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, when they start making all these little rules and technicalities and how long the barrel can be, and if you're on this road, it needs to be in this case, and it needs to be separated in these pieces, and the ammo can't be in there, and the ammo needs to be in a lockbox, and the gun needs to be in a lockbox, and if it's in your home, it needs to be in a safe at all times, and if that's found out, you get this fine or jailed or your rights taken away. It's like, these are infringements. And some of these states that we now live in, like mine, where your gun's supposed to be in a lockbox, I'm getting burglarized in the middle of the night. They're through the window in no time. I'm waking up. Is my protection device even helpful to me? I mean, I got to go get it out of the safe. I mean, you know, the Benjamin Franklin quote: "Those who favor safety over liberty deserve neither." You don't hear our politicians echoing that one very much these days. So, well, RPM Trey says, you know, owning a gun is a God-given right. Again, a God-given right is the ability to protect yourself, right? And I would say to have dominion over your family and make the choices within your household. And obviously, as a good person, you should be good to your family and everyone else. But we have this thing now where the state is like the ultimate say-so and has even more power than the parents in the household. We heard you spanked your child. CPS will be by. And if the report holds true, man, we might be taking him out of the house and putting him in a government facility or with a government foster care parent. That's the problem with where society's at. I don't know, though, that I would say the Second Amendment's technically a God-given right because guns don't really come from creator. But Anyway, I hear the sentiment, RPM Trey. I'm just things need to be simplified. Government needs to have way less authority and reach and power. And this is what happens when it gets out of control. Next thing you know, they're creating the problems so that they can say, see, we're the good guys. Listen to us. We'll keep you all safe. Just listen to us. Listen to us. So anyway, I got to leave it there for now. Shout out to RPM Trey Vietnam. If you don't know him, he does great gun rights advocacy stuff. And it's hard for him to grow his channel because he's talking about things that YouTube doesn't want. And unless you're like some Brandon Herrera CIA plant that's part of the narrative, making like really just like... It makes me mad, man. Like, I've been taken down so many times, supposedly for being like a danger. I feel like a Brandon Herrera making all these little dark jokes about the death of Kurt Cobain. To me, that's kind of distasteful and sick. It's like, I feel like that's worse than anything I ever did. I lost 20-some channels. All I do is come out here and put out undeniable facts. So, I'm speaking rhetorically. Of course, a guy like Brandon Herrera, who is a plant, he's also advocating for government and running for office. Again, anyone doing this stuff is part of the problem. Again, the only thing you should be talking about, especially if you're a gun guy in government, is it's time to use the things to resist the tyranny, which is why we were given the right in the first place, to protect ourselves from enemies, foreign and domestic. And the reality is the foreign enemy became the domestic enemy centuries ago, pretty much when George Washington was installed and history began essentially being recorded for U.S. history, which was the year the Jesuit Georgetown was established. So... all right, guys, we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. I got to attend to a few things. Again, thank you to everyone who does hit the like and the share. Thank you to everyone who supports the work. Thank you to the super chatters. If you guys would like to support the work on a monthly recurring basis, you know, pledging $1 to my Patreon, you might get cut off after 1 month. Patreon likes to dump people every month on the first. It's also part of a sick joke, but... yeah, a dollar adds up when you got a lot of people doing it. And just to tell you the reality of my situation, when I went coast to coast from Seattle to New York, we had 74. It's funny that the top was 7,400. Ever since then, it's been down, down, down. Of course, Gematria is 74. But we were up to a 7,400 people pledging $1 a month. Right now, we're at 2,500. It's not bad. But when I had better resources, it was easier to travel and justify to the wife, hey, I got to get out there and pound pavement and put this message out on the streets of America. If you've never seen, I speak as clear as day on the corner of any city in America. It doesn't matter if I'm in Times Square or anywhere. I'll drop this knowledge on a dime anywhere. And it is powerful. I mean, we have people stopping in their tracks and listening to us in New York. I'm pretty sure that's why the money went down afterwards. I don't think it was really my supporters fell off. I think it's that big tech financially punished us, but... it's hard to regrow the support because the channel doesn't really reach new people. So if you're a new person here, you like what you see, I'm on this thing every single day, putting out the word. $1 a month, it goes a long way when you got a lot of people doing it. So if we can rebuild the movement, you might see us doing a coast-to-coast trip again. And when I say us, I talk about the Truth Seekers, man. We came out, we put out pretty big crowds of people everywhere we went. So thank you again to everyone who does support the work. Link to support is in the description of the video. I got to call Zelle. I keep forgetting to call Zelle. Do not send me any money on Zelle, you guys. Do not send me any money on Zelle. I'll let you know when it's okay to Zelle me something. If you've Zelled me any money since August 22nd, it went straight to the people who hacked all my financial accounts. I got to get that taken care of. I keep forgetting to do my Zelle. But yeah, they rerouted my Zelle to some hacker account, so I got to take care of Zelle. Everything else is good, though. Everything's in order. Just don't send me any money on Zelle. All right, we'll leave it there for now. And until next time.